Don't touch the dial.
You're listening to the sound
of Lagos.
Mainland FM 98.3.
Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. I trust we had an amazing, beautiful, awesome weekend. Well, it's always an amazing one, especially here in Lagos. People try to, be outside. Well, I hope you also found time to be able to, spend some time with your family, friends, and loved ones that, you've not been able to see for the past few weeks, especially with the fuel situation, traffic, and transport, fare situation. Well, all right. Well, aside from that, I hope that we're also positive and looking forward to a beautiful and productive week. This is the morning show on Mainland 98.3 FM. We'll start off with Trends in the Papers, where we look through the major trending stories on the from the papers. All right, and then we'll do this up until 8:30, and then by 8:40 we move on to Mainland Focus, where we'll pick one or two major trending stories from the papers, and then we flesh it out, open up the phone line for you, our dear listener, to be a part of the conversation. All right. And then by 9:45, we come back again for Global View, where we'll talk top 3 trending stories on the international scene. My name is Mobola Sandra, and I'll be doing this alongside with Fuhad Saheed, who will be joining in via the phone line to give analysis to the stories that we're going to be treating this morning. However, it is our tradition here that every Monday we try to bring you up to speed as regards the major trending stories from over the weekend. So I have the stories here, and I'll just pick the headlines and then we'll move on to today's trending stories. Governors disobey federal government on Lagos local government autonomy, cripple council operations. If you joined in yesterday on Political Roundtable between 6 and 8 p.m., I'm sure you would have been able to get a whole load from that particular conversation. Tinubu taxed U.S. on defense on democracy in West Africa. Amid protests, 𝗵𝗃 finally swear in new NWC members, promises rewards for others. Forex crisis put parents of students studying abroad in severe pressure. Coup. 𝗪𝗪𝗻 Abubakar reveals discussion with junta President Bazoum in Niger Republic. 𝗬𝗂𝘀𝗁 bans congratulatory billboard in his honor, taken from the Nation newspapers. We need to take bold decisions to build a strong nation. That's coming from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Palliative. States sing different tunes over 5 billion support fund, taken from Vanguard from 27th of August. Edo Saturday local government poll. PDP, 𝗵𝗃 bigger over vote buying. Nigeria still losing 400,000 barrels of crude oil daily, says NSA. Nuhu Ribadu. Interior Minister promises to reform 4 services. Federal government discovers illegal crude oil connection in Abia. Also, we have here Tinubu. Niger's crisis will not deter me from concluding Nigeria's economic reform program. And Atiku, Obi, Tinubu, and the September 16th deadline. Tribunal to resolve jigsaw puzzle in 3 weeks. And finally, change your mindsets. Let us move Nigeria forward, Tinubu tells lawyers. All these stories called from different papers over the weekend and compiled by Kelvin Nwafili. Thank you very much. Those were the major trending stories from over the weekend. Now let's see what we have for this morning. But before then, good morning, Fuad.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you very much. All right. So I trust you had an interesting weekend.
Yeah, it was a fantastic one, an interesting one. I think very exciting too. I think I enjoyed myself on Political Roundtable yesterday. It was a very good discussion. But a quick update. A quick update for people who are asking when will the Presidential Election Tribunal deliver judgment. We have a date now, September 16th. The judgment should be delivered on all, it's a consolidated case. So the PDP case, Labour Party case, every case all put together. We're going to have a final judgment from the Presidential Election Tribunal. So September 16th, incidentally, that's the last day of the 180 days window for court to deliver judgments on the petition. So from there, I'm sure most likely we are going to go to the Supreme Court, which is the final level.
Well, we're all looking forward to that. Everyone is looking forward to that. We haven't really been hearing much from that side. So we'll wait. That's just, next month. We'll see what exactly we get from that. Let's see now what we have from the Guardian newspaper. The major headline on the front page of the Guardian: federal government's estimate reduces unemployment on paper amid almost 10 million jobs deficit. I just like how the Guardian, just highlights some of these very interesting stories. Well, it says here, global unemployment estimates by region, and it's well highlighted here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper across the world, across continents now, not just in Africa. And the story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. So just very quickly, there are riders to that. Data gathering must consider local peculiarities, Kill insists. Adi, it's irrational for unemployment to drop from 33.3 to 4.1% with the GDP growth of 1.9%. Reforms adversely affecting economic growth, says Yusuf. Social impacts of economic reform are devastating. So exactly how many Nigerians are unemployed is a question nobody may be able to find an accurate answer for in the foreseeable future. This is because Nigeria's hyped unemployment rate dropped last Thursday, according to NBS, that is National Bureau of Statistics, a government agency that is saddled with the responsibility of coming up with the most accurate figure. Well, Fuad, we're still on this. We're still on this unemployment conversation. But then let's look at this. Second, the second rider. The second rider that's here that says that it's irrational for unemployment to drop from 33 to 4.1 when our GDP growth is at 1.9.
You know what, Sandra? What the MBS is saying is that this is a new global standard for measuring unemployment globally. And the funny thing, according to the new global standard, which does not take care of our own local peculiarities, is that, look, even if you work for 1 hour in a day, you are considered employed. That's a new standard, that, look, even if you just go out in a day, you have somebody to clean their compound, that kind of work where you just come in the morning, and so you are considered employed. You are considered employed. So whether you are underemployed, whether it's just a labor work where you are just there, you get your daily wages and all of that, it is so far you can work 1 hour in a day, you are considered employed. And that's the reason why, according to their own data and statistics now, unemployment in Nigeria has now dropped from 33% to 4.1%. And I agree with the Guardian newspaper, which is that says it's just a mere paperwork. For me, I think it's a joke taken too far. Even at 33% unemployment rate, if you subject it to proper integrity test, it's going to fall flat completely. So again, the reality is this, Sandra. I think we should get serious and not trivialize some of these things. Unemployment data in countries in the world are taken with all seriousness as it requires. I think we should not trivialize or make it a thing of joke to begin to throw off figures that our unemployment rate suddenly fell from 33% to 4.1%. Even the statisticians at the NBA should be ashamed of putting that kind of figures out there. It's a serious matter that requires government attention. And if I'm going to be playing around with figures, it simply means we are not taking it serious. A lot of Nigerians don't have any jobs, Sandra. People are just trying to make a living, most likely because the informal sector has done well. Taking care of a lot of unemployed Nigerians. A lot of private sector people in informal sector, transportation, helping people to just put some little food on their table. And you can't really consider that unemployment. I think we should be looking at the employed and the underemployed, and have proper data as to how to tackle this major challenge in the country. Every day we keep turning out graduates with no job to do. There's nobody who doesn't have a graduate, either as a sibling, as a brother, that has been looking for a job for years without anything to do. So again, I just think we shouldn't waste too much time on this data.
Well,
whatever global standard that is now being applied, it does not work for our own local peculiarities.
Well, just highlighting what you have already said, or emphasizing what you have already said, Fuhad. I have here the NBS immediate past CEO and former Nigeria Statistician General, Dr. 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗪, yesterday affirmed the acknowledgement of the new methodology in older reports, but argued that an intellectually thinking mindset takes the best option to any issue based on what is truly believed as the best, as against political thinking pushing for international standards and whatnot. Now, 𝗀𝗃, taking to his ex, formerly Twitter page, he opened a can of worms in a series of tweets with documents and figures dissecting the NBS figures. He said, and I'm quoting, "When we understand that the primary purpose of data is not politics or ego boosting or chest thumping,
proper planning,
or evidence-based policy, and to understand the problems and then prefer solutions and then monitor success of those policies, we'll get it." But apparently we're not ready. So much for the informal sector workers were never captured lying unintelligently with statistics. all that change is allowable.
Thank God it's not me saying this, Sandra.
I'm quoting it. All that change is allowable hours. Informal workers often tend to work even longer hours than formal workers. They are usually up before and often close after the formal sector. So, an intellectually thinking, no, you can't plan for gainful employment and measure something else because of so-called international standards when various countries have different priorities. Yes, do your international comparison, but you must, more importantly, also provide for local demands and policies. Now, this is where I'm getting to, Fuad, is the fact that he's looking at the angle of this statistics now, or these reports now. Is not going to allow the government do the needful, which is to provide solution to the job deficit that we have in Nigeria. That is our local
Of course, if you wake up as a president every day or as a governor somewhere, and you are told by your planners that, look, unemployment in Nigeria has dropped to 4.1%, would you see it as a major priority? And that's why it's dangerous to begin to play politics with serious issues of national importance, Sandra. You know, like I said, in saner climes, as they say, unemployment figures is not something you joke with. It's something that is taken seriously by planners, you know, and policy makers. Because what exactly is governance when people are not employed, gainfully employed? So it's a joke taken too far for us to now begin to, you know, play politics with unemployment figures.
Fuad,
deflect on real issues. Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you.
You know, maybe not deflect on real issues or play politics with a very serious matter like unemployment figures. And then you're not, the global standard is that even if you are working for 1 hour, you are considered employed. And so you want us to work with them. You want the government to plan with that. So I think we need to take serious standard.
I can't hear you, Fuad. Can you move a bit?
Is it better now?
Yes, thank you.
You know, so even the 33% we were working with initially was not has always been questioned. You know, looking at our own reality. So again, all of the things that the former NBS man said, I think is spot on. And thank God it was not us saying it. We shouldn't joke with some of these things, Sandra. We shouldn't be joking with these things.
No. Well, according to Dr. 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗪, the main purpose or the main objective of this data is to inform policymakers and not for international comparison, but for our local needs, which is to inform policymakers. So if our policymakers are seeing that, we have, our unemployment is now 4.1%, well, maybe we should move on to other issues.
They won't take it serious. They won't even take it serious.
Very unfortunate.
They won't take it serious.
Very, very. Well, thankfully, The Guardian is seriously highlighting this issue. More details of that on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. Let's move on now. We also have here on the front page of The Guardian, Nigeria won't service debt with 90% revenue, Tinubu assures at NBA conference. So what we have in this report, the president has said that Nigeria would not sustain failed economic theory that sees to the wastage of 90% of its scarce revenue on the servicing of external debt in the midst of many development challenges facing the country. Now, what's the way forward, Fuad? What would you say is the way forward? Because the president is saying that, you know.
I think,
okay.
As the president is talking about revenue, he should also talk about expenditure and spending pattern. Yes, we understand that it does not make any sense to continue to service our debt with over 70% of our revenue. But we should ask ourselves, government expenditure, where and where does those money really go to? What do we do with whatever we've made? You know, our spending pattern. You know, you always ask the question whether we have a revenue problem or a spending problem. And I think it's more of a spending problem too, because look, we can make all of the monies in the world, but when you keep throwing monies into things that you know would not give any benefit to the people, you know, like we say now, the governors are living large now. They are very happy. You know, just I think last week now, you know, at the fact we're able to share over almost 1 trillion naira at different levels of government. So it's good. Yes, it's good that the government is talking about, you know, the borrowing pattern of the country, the fact that our debt ceiling are becoming a problem. But where do we spend? What are the projects we are spending on? For example, what of the cost of governance? As it is that there are still questions as to why the president has decided to overblow his cabinet members. We are talking about 48 ministers now, 28 senior special advisors. All of them are going to look for new offices. They are going to employ people. You know, so if the government is looking at our debt problem, looking at the fact that, look, it does not make any sense servicing our debt with over 70% of revenue, then they should also look at our spending pattern to get us out of this avoidable debt. And also look at the state level. Look, Sandra, we paid too much attention to the federal government. That was one of the things that we discussed on 𝗪𝗃 roundtable yesterday.
Yes.
Whereas the governors are the major problem, or let us say part of the major problem of this country. As we speak, Sandra, all of our governors are not in Nigeria. If you don't know. They are somewhere in Kigali, Rwanda now on a conference. All the governors, 36 of them. And you know what that means? They are going to go with their aides, go with all manner of advisors.
That's a lot of spending.
Hotels, extra codes. It's also part of spending.
It's a lot of spending.
You're well for, you can't. Sorry.
I'm with you, Fuhad. Just affirm what you're saying.
No. You know what I'm saying is that, are you saying that conference cannot be held in Abuja?
Or virtually?
Maybe or maybe somewhere in Ibadan, or somewhere in Osun, or even in Anambra State. You know, so it is, you know, these guys are happy to spend money, do whatever they want to do. You know, we've seen what was good. Look at the last budget appropriation, Sandra. 70 billion for vehicles, this billion for that. You know, token going into the hands of senators and their emails. You know, so, and I think as the president continues to tell us about revenue and debt, he should also tell us the practical the government is doing to cut down the cost of governance and ensure that whatever we put money to Nigeria going forward is what will better the lives of the ordinary people. And I'm not saying that coming from the government. We are not seeing that as a priority, that, okay, these are the things we are doing to cut down the cost of governance, to appropriate monies appropriately, and ensure that, you know, we don't go on a spending trip that will just, you know, line the pockets of corrupt politicians, as we have always done in the past. So it is not about just talking for me, Sandra. What are the actions on ground, or what are the things we are putting in place to ensure proper spending as far as the country is concerned?
Speaking of putting certain things in place, the president said, and I quote, "Can we continue to service external debt with 90% of our revenue? It is a path to destruction. It is not sustainable. We must make the very difficult changes that are necessary for our country to get up from slumber and be respected among the great nations of the world." I want to ask a question, Fuhad. I hope this very difficult changes they want to make, I hope it is not exactly. I hope it's not just for the masses. I hope that
understand where you're going. It is looking like it's only for the masses, Sandra. It is looking like it's only for the masses. You know, yes, difficult decisions. People are already bearing untold hardship and pain as a result of the subsidy removal. But what are we seeing? What is the sacrifice for the people in government? Are we seeing any form of sacrifices? It is still the same old thing. The same budgetary provisions, the same allowances still go to them. We are not seeing anything to show that they are tightening their own belt. You understand? So, yes, tough decisions, but it should not be one-sided tough decision, only for the mass and poor Nigerians. What about the people in government? What are the sacrifices that will come from them? We're not seeing that. Nobody is talking about that.
Oh, well, there's a lot that was said at this NBA, conference. There's a whole lot that was said there. The president also still went on to say poverty is not acceptable and we must banish it. But then
not by mere wishes, Sandra. It's not by, you see, statements are cheap. Talk is cheap. You know, poverty is not acceptable. We must banish it. It's not. Is it by prayers or by just mere saying it? You know, to get people out of poverty requires a lot of work. I was listening to the new minister, Dr. Betta Edu. Oh, I'm going to take more than so million Nigerians out of poverty. Can we just get serious and not just go sloganeering again?
And I think we will
It's
do.
not by mere wishes, Sandra.
And I think we will
we
do.
get people out of
Fuhad.
poverty. Sorry?
And I said, I believe we will do.
Do
what I've been bamboozled in the studio with the presence of 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗃.
Oh, really?
Just right here in the studio. So listeners, if you are watching our live on Facebook, I'm sure you see me. The shock on my face.
Sneaked into the studio.
He just
sneaked into
he
the
just entered into this
Like a
studio.
thief in the night.
You know. Well, you're welcome, 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗃.
I promise.
It is so good to have you.
You know, I'm a man of my words.
No, you are not, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. We're talking about president saying 90% of our, we're spending 90% of our revenue on servicing debts. Just a quick one on that. Let's move on to the next story.
Well, it's a good thing that we are not saying the 16 years of PDP. We probably will say it's the 8 years of 𝗵𝗃 and another, years of 𝗵𝗃 to come. So I think they created the mess, they brought the mess upon us, they should clean it. I'm tired of these reasons and excuses. Muhammadu Buhari, as a president, gave us these reasons for 8 years. Are we going to spend another 8 years, whatever, on reason why we can't move forward as a nation? I've always been, thank God. Just about this time last year, I and Fuhad were talking about how Saudi Arabia Aramco made so much money due to the Russia-Ukraine war, and what we're going to do with the excess. They shot beyond their expectation for the year with over $80 billion. What have we done? So I don't think it's for us to be be fed with these stories, tales by moonlight, whatever. They should just move on and get serious with business of governance. At least he told us, he promised us was going to hit the ground running. And I guess that the debt issue is not news to everybody. We've been there, so he probably should have drawn up a master plan, since it was a lifelong ambition, a lifetime ambition, and this is what he wants to do. Is a master strategist, is a financial wizard and everything. He should bring all this wizardry and ingenuity on board, and let's move out of this mess they created as a party.
It's all right. Thank you very much. Now moving on to still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, just in case you're just tuning in. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. You're listening to Trends in the Papers. I have Fuhad Saheed via the phone line and 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗃 after a very long hiatus back in the studio with us. Welcome.
It's nice to be here.
All right, let's move on now to this story. Controversy over relevance of specialized varsities. Fuhad, we talked about, polytechnics and universities some time back, and if we should be having, we should have more of technical, colleges. Thank you very much. Technical colleges around. Now, there's a report here. Nigeria's specialized universities have been in the news for the wrong reasons. And here, this report is examining controversies surrounding these institutions, whether they can deliver on their mandate or solve the nation's dearth of manpower in some key sectors. Where we have, hello, Fuhad? Can you move a bit? There's a feedback coming from your end that's a little bit unpleasant. I'll try to some carpentry work. All right, we'll try to reconnect with you. Please stand by. Well, Fuhad and I have been having the conversation as regards, some specialized, functions or sectors. The engineering sector and all of that, the education sector, techs basically, and also agriculture. Agriculture seems to be a neglected sector in Nigeria, and we've also had conversations around specialized universities attending to all of these things, engineering, agriculture and all of that. So what we have in this report is that despite federal government's directive to specialized institutions to focus on their core mandate and stop offering courses that are not in their original mandate, the trend has continued. Take for instance University of Agriculture, Makurdi. established January 1, 1988 as a specialized university, has now metamorphosed from the defunct Federal University of Technology, and now it has deviated in 2010 to College of Management Sciences. So if we keep having all of this, I don't know if it is update or should we call it update or upgrade now or whatnot. Why are we having upgrades? Why are we having updates? Why can't this specialized universities stay focused? Where you have a University of Agriculture now having departments of business administration, accounting and finance, and then you have University of Agriculture having courses like Christian religious studies, conversations like that. Fuhad.
Maybe you have to pray before. Let's sarcastic, but maybe you have to pray before you go to farm.
I'm trying to even understand.
No, thank God I have a direct contact with this. I attended University of Agriculture, 𝗪𝗪𝗁𝗪, UNAB, now FUNAB. While we were there, it was just purely agriculture and a bit of science courses. I was in natural sciences department college, what we call corners, mathematical sciences. But I think over time there was a need for them to evolve. When you want to get on the map, whether we like it or not, social sciences as a course probably was introduced. This is now me coming up with my own thinking for them to raise funds.
For the schools.
The more the student, the more you get as revenue for the schools.
No, but Fuhad,
but there's no way they could start running those departments or faculties without seeking approval from NUC.
So NUC is a part of the problem.
So NUC is a part of the problem. And another thing is this: you want these guys to focus on their core mandates. I will give you an instance. When we were still in now FUNAB, there's a course called a course is still there. It's called CPP 201. You see people in the universities still going for farm practicals, going with cutlasses and everything. There's another thing called FPY, farm practical years, like a semester, a whole session where you go plant and everything. Even the teaching tools and teaching aids and even the knowledge being imparted is quite primitive, outdated, obsolete. So how can they even meet up or deliver their core mandates? They can't.
So it's not the institutions now should focus on. It's the NUC. Fuhad, yes,
everybody's involved.
Schools are trying to raise funds, but then don't you think it's an aberration that the University of Agriculture is having a law department?
It's a complete aberration. It's a complete, and I think we will have to blame all our policymakers, from the government officials to our regulators, the NUC,
for Federal Ministry of Education,
and from everybody, the ministers and policymakers. Look, Sandra, what of polytechnics? What is accounting, for example, doing in a polytechnic?
Don't people will come for you. Just let some people just
wait now. It's not supposed to be a polytechnic. It's not supposed to be more of technical courses.
Yeah, accounting is technical. For you to do the balancing, the auditing. You know what you're saying?
Saka is back now.
It's a final submission. I think it's obvious. We like I said, we failed in our policy making and what have you. And I think sometimes it's just about politicking. And everybody wants, and they crave and they rush to get this tertiary education. And you want to maximize your potentials. You are cited, let me say, 𝗪𝗪𝗁𝗪, you have a college of education, you have a polytechnic, and you just want to still be part of the market.
So Fuhad, now according to what I have here, it says here that Dr. Onyeka Chukwu, who is a lecturer, agrees that specialized universities have actually not lived up to their mandate. But he said the solution for these, specialized universities to stay focused is for the government to fund these institutions. That if these institutions are not funded, they will have to find ways to survive, and then they will lose their specialty. Do you agree with that? The government, is the major, accomplice.
I agree completely. I've always questioned the policy of this government on funding our institutions. We've not really had much from them as to what they will be doing with funding our universities, polytechnics, colleges of education. The only thing they threw at the people, and I think people have realized that it's just a joke, was the student loan thing. What we are now seeing is
third-party funding.
What we are now seeing is, schools now trying to raise their, fees, whether tuition or whatever. Fees are now going up and all of that. Whether we like it or not, the government still has to fund tertiary education in Nigeria. As a developing economy, Sandra, we have not gotten to that point where we are going to say, oh, institutions go and fund themselves. We have to be deliberate about funding our institutions because we need to build our economy by building knowledge, building the youth, who are going to fill that pot when we get there. So a developing economy, funding, when I hear people say, oh, government should not be funding institutions and all of that. We have not gotten to that point. We need to fund and be deliberate about it. Go and see countries, Sandra, that move from underdeveloped to developing and see how deliberate they were about funding their universities and tertiary institutions. For the growth of their nation. That's where you're going to build engineers, build experts who are now going to, help you to develop your economy. So the government has to come clear exactly as to how they want to fund these institutions. And like the experts have said, if we are not clear about that, nothing will change.
And Fuhad, it's an indictment even of the government. You take a look across the country and look at the infrastructure projects or development agenda or probably, interventions across the country. Look at the contractors, look at the workers on site, look at the so-called supervisors. Are they Nigerians?
A lot of them are not, except for the laborers.
Okay.
It's okay. It's all right. Thank you very much. Well, more details of that on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. This is still trends in the papers. Let's move on now to the Punch newspaper. The time right now is 11 minutes past 8, and the major headline on the front page of the Punch: Cameroon dam opening. Evacuate to prevent death. Federal government states warn flood-prone communities. And excuse me, the writers there says NEMA advises governors on evacuation. Nasarawa, Taraba set up IDP camps and others. Anambra orders evacuation in affected areas. Flood sweeps away 2 children. Here we are still on this conversation. I don't know why we had to wait till something like this is going to happen before, measures are being put in place. Every year we get, so many alerts from NEMA, from different, societies saying that, oh, something is definitely going to happen. Well, according to the National Emergency Management Agency officials, no fewer than 11 states are likely to feel the negative impacts of the opening of the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. I'm talking about Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Cross Rivers. And now the states have been advised that such residents are to leave the areas to avoid impacts on human lives and valuable assets. Fuhad.
I have my fears as to how we are going to be able to do this evacuation. Because the Cameroonian government has written to Nigeria, they've written to NEMA and written to the federal government that they are going to open this dam. In fact, the reports we are getting is that the dam has, the waters have been released already from the dam there in Cameroon, and that, some areas are already getting flooded. So how fast we are going to be able to quickly evacuate people from these flood-prone areas is my concern now. Understanding the fact that, look, I'm not sure the states have an emergency response unit that are quite proactive to be able to take care of things like this. But I think what we need to do is to inform people. Maybe people need to help themselves into these areas. Basically, we are looking at the River Benue area, and that runs into other rivers and streams across the country. And people need to move because the water is going to come. The rains are coming heavy in September. There are already, reports on that. And if this dam is open fully from Cameroon, you remember what happened last year, Sandra, and we are still talking about it. In fact, there are people who have not recovered from the flooding of last year, and this one is coming. And Cameroon has said they are opening the dam. So we need to quickly evacuate. The long-term solution would be for us to also dredge the River Benue, to accommodate when these dams are open, it accommodates and all of that, or build a counter dam in Nigeria to take some of these waters. But that's a long-term thing. I think the immediate thing is to quickly find a way how these governors will evacuate people from these areas, because lives and properties could be lost.
For me, I think there's a need for us to call back 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗪 because he said he could dredge the River Niger for 100 million naira.
It's a joke.
But you see, it's there's a River Basin Development Commission, authority rather, that was instituted or created years back, and I think what we should have been thinking about when Fashola said governance is not rocket science, you would have expected them to give them the idea, point them to the right way. We could have just done a bit of channelization, envisaging this flooding or probably release of water from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. Yes, flooding is a regular natural ecological disaster across the world globally. But the response and the preparedness of countries is what makes them a serious nation. Do we have to wait to this last minute? Just about this time last year, you can't even drive from through 𝗪𝗪𝗁 to Abuja.
The whole of Kogi was almost cut out.
It's a good one. Let's just pray. And I'm not trying to sound an alarm bell. Let's also pray for Lagos.
Well, as it is now, it says here that state governments are making announcements, state governments are alerting local government
areas. They should move into those areas,
but
not just making. They should move into those areas. You should engage them. You should tell them this is what is happening. You should just move them out.
According to this report,
and some of the funds too, the ecological funds that they receive, this is the time to deploy it.
According to this report now,
Sandra, this is the time for you to start, enumerating. I have know who owns what, so what you give them after the flood has, the water has receded back to its, its original.
It's a lot of work. Do we have that structure? That's my fear. Do we have a structure that can quickly respond to emergencies effectively?
You can't just in 1 week now say, okay, fine, we'll settle you. This summer just busy sharing my blanket material and noodles.
𝗪𝗵 is going to work at the federal level, at the central level.
No, it says
𝗪𝗵, state emergency.
Many of them have a proper state emergency response unit. That's what I'm saying.
No,
how many of these things?
It's just an outfit. They just get involved maybe when there's a building collapse or something. That's when you see them. I think they just have the name. And
because Saka, flood evacuation is a serious work. Enumeration is important. How do you secure some of the properties, some of their valuables? How do you quickly set up IDP camps? What about feeding? What about the logistics that comes with moving of people and then returning? It's a lot of work.
Sanitation is also key.
And sanitation too. What of the health workers that work with them to ensure people are not infected with cholera, diarrhea? It's a lot of work, and I have my fears that we may not be able to properly coordinate it.
Let us pray.
Well, that's very unfortunate. But then, still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, more details of the Cameroon dam opening on pages 2 and 4 of the Punch newspaper. I also have here on the front page here, I am loyal to 𝗪𝗶𝗃. I still want to be governor, and that is Shuaibu. So Edo State is still giving us, news back to back. It's interesting.
The man is loyal to say he cannot become governor. He's loyal to it. He's not ready to fight the fight finish.
He's loyal to 𝗪𝗃, but he still wants to be governor.
Yeah, the man, I say he cannot become governor. He said he wants to become governor. Don't be to just fight the fight, scatter everything.
He said his loyalty has nothing to do with his ambition to become governor of Edo State.
I say the man is loyal to. He's saying he cannot become governor. Well, if I want to become governor, and the man I'm loyal to is telling me I cannot become governor, he's not to fight the thing finish.
No, the man is telling you that this
Which
is...
Which of the man?
No, the governor now is saying to Philip that, okay, you can't be the governor. And he says, okay, fine, but I'm not saying you should not, aspire, but you probably might not, achieve it.
Yeah.
So, Saka, is it right to be loyal to a man who is not supportive of your ambition?
No, loyalty is absolute, like people say. I don't know, in Nigerian politics or what have you, that's when you see defined, structured or restructured loyalty.
Okay.
But in the military or in the paramilitary or regimental service, they'll tell you that loyalty is absolute.
It's all right.
So if you are loyal to someone, he says don't go there, you don't go there.
Yes.
Fuhad, thank you very much. It's okay.
Well, politics is not like that.
Shuaibu is saying that 𝗪𝗪𝗁 is his elder brother, is his boss. He has loyalty for him, and even if they have issues, it is better settled at home and not in the media. He said he's well brought up, that he has fear of God and all of that, and he's doing everything in solidarity. But then that won't stop his ambition of being.
What if it's a test of his loyalty? If the governor wants to say, okay, I don't want you to become the governor, to see how he will react. And he's doing the right thing, that I'm still loyal.
I don't have answers to that question. I do not have an answer to that question. I leave it all to 𝗪𝗁𝗃 and Shuaibu. There's a whole lot that is just coming from Edo State, especially with their gubernatorial just around the corner by November. We'll see how things pan out. More details.
I know, Sandra, basically what 𝗪𝗁𝗃 is saying, just 1 minute, 𝗪𝗁𝗃 is saying that, look, Shuaibu is from Edo North, and he is from Edo South, that's 𝗪𝗁𝗃. And what they are saying is that, look, Edo Central has not really produced a governor. So, for sake of equity, fairness, and justice, is looking towards the direction of Edo Central to now produce
but
a governor.
I think zoning, or probably we should now go for competence. And that's the argument at some point. So why are we bringing it up now?
No, mind. Politicians will come up with this argument when it favors them, or when they have an ambition or their own
their agenda.
Even though they are not committed to it. So, but we'll see what happens in Edo next year.
Thank you very much. Let's move on now to The Nation newspaper. The major headline on the front page of The Nation: Tinubu, servicing debt with 90% revenue unsustainable. And he also there's a writer there that says good pay for judges will lift judiciary. That's a good.
So I want to ask a question. If servicing debt with 90% of our revenue is not obtainable, is not sustainable, please, who is going to pay it? You and I? Is that what they're trying to tell us? Because I don't understand why you feel. So what should we do? Is that you either increase your revenue generation, or you just have to keep paying it because you have a financial obligations to meet up with?
Well,
Sandra, for the supporters of the government that keep saying, "Oh, we can still continue to borrow," our debt to GDP ratio still give us an opportunity to continue to borrow. I keep telling them, it's not that you cannot borrow. Yes, the debt to GDP ratio still gives you window to borrow. But where do you spend the money? How do you spend the money when you borrow? With this level of corruption. And that's the problem.
Is this government corrupt?
no, it's not. It's very clean. Let's move on now to the still on the front page of The Nation. We also have here stock market deals up by 22%. Available records have shown that investors' expectations that ongoing economic reforms will stimulate improvements in macroeconomic performance and investment returns are yielding results.
Sorry, please. Well, what are the microeconomics reforms? Has it been stated anywhere? There's no policy documents out there.
Yeah, the money to SME.
No,
Fuhad, have they shared it?
Fuhad.
We've
what is Fuhad doing?
Because the truth matter, sometimes we should. I don't know. Why you say yes, the stock market could have gained some points and what have you, but don't lump it with economic. Which policy? This, as far as we to the best of my knowledge, unless somebody wants to bring it out or conjure it, or you want to use voodoo economics or something, there's no economic policy. There's no direction. Well, we have 𝗵𝗵 or what have you doing about Jonathan, then Buhari. What have they said? What's the economic summit group or whatever? What have they come up with? What plan do they have? We have Vision 2020. What are they bringing to the table? They've not said anything.
Well, according to this report, it says here that the economic outlook has pushed transactions at the stock market up by 22%. This is the latest trading data. Latest trading data obtained at the Nigerian Exchange. Well, we can definitely get more details of that by 11 a.m. On Mainland Business Cafe. We'll be having, joining us in the studio, Jonathan Okwekwe, who's a books general and investor in Nigerian Exchange. We'll be discussing a whole lot about that by 11 a.m. So please stay tuned. More details, however, on page 8 of The Nation newspaper. And now we are moving on to why we destroyed vessel laden with stolen crude by Navy. And that is on page 6. I thought we had moved past this. They gave an explanation that it is part of instructions that were given. That's as at the last time we had this.
To destroy evidence.
To destroy what you could even make money from.
Stolen crude. To destroy stolen crude.
You said it's your property. It was stolen, you got it, and you destroyed it. That you can even sell to make more money.
That's what I'm saying. You destroyed the vessel, you destroyed the crude. It's not like, thank you, Saka. Somebody steals your property, you recover it, and you destroy the whole thing.
In Yoruba,
Sandra, what about the vessel? Can we wait, Sandra? He's saying does it make any sense? Is there common sense in that one? But Sandra, the crude oil and the vessel, can we just keep it? The vessels, are we saying that there's nothing we can do with them? Remember the argument.
Investigation would have been concluded. Probably will be in court. It will be exhibits, and at this kind of case, they probably want to do plea bargaining.
But Saka and Sandra, remember, You know, when we were questioning this, one of the explanation given by government, their representative was that, look, if they don't destroy, they will still steal that thing again. The vessel will still be stolen.
Yeah, some happened under the former 𝗃𝗃𝗁 chair, you know.
So they just take them back. You don't find the vessel again.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Well, we have here that the Nigerian Navy has described as unfounded, spurious, and baseless the allegation by owners of a merchant vessel, 𝗪𝗡, that it was seized and burnt by naval operatives. It was said that the vessel, which was arrested on August 15th, had generated interest and was being tracked for illegal oil theft. And it's a very long read, but then pertinently the owners of the yes.
All of these, I'm sure the papers have it. Up till now, almost about 500,000 barrels of crude oil are stolen every day in Nigeria. Despite the Topola arrangement. The Topola arrangement has been I think has been activated again for another 1 year. 48 billion naira. Has been activated again for 1 year. And everybody's talking tough now. Even the governor of Rivers State is complaining that why should it be Tompolo? That it should be spread across the Niger Delta, that there are so many militants around that can also do the job.
He didn't mention a name. He said by one man.
Which one man? We know the man.
He didn't mention a name.
For me, the danger is this, and whether we like it or not, whether everybody want to see anything or not, whether any authorities want to question it or not, is the truth. Empowering non-state actors.
Militants or former militants.
They're still non-state actors. Empowering non-state actors is a threat to your national security, and by extension, a threat to your any form of government you run it or governance. So it's in the end of the day, it's a threat to democracy because they have so much money, and apart from crude oil, that is a business that's 24/7, 365 days in a year. The other business that run that way is illegal arms business.
Well, still on that particular story, we also have here on the front page of The Nation, Nigeria loses $4 million daily to oil theft. And that's coming from...
And we have to bear the brunt of the subsidy removal load. We Nigerians.
I just said it now.
Nigerians have to bear the brunt. We can't fish out, identify, prosecute the ghost, genies and the extraterrestrials behind subsidies. Behind subsidies scam.
The forces.
Now, we can't even get the genies and the aliens that's behind, crude oil theft. But Nigerians have to, bear the consequences, the pain and the hardship
of genies and spirits.
Why the government officials, either they are probably extending their belt, or why we are tightening ours.
Well, there's a siphoning point that has been found in Abia State. The site, is in Owaza, and he has many illegal connections to a major crude pipeline. There's a video, and the team there's a high-power team that was dispatched by the president to assess crude oil theft in Niger Delta, and they uncovered, these illegal connections, especially this one that was found.
24 hours, Abby. Tell me magic.
It's amazing what high-powered teams can do. I think we should start
delegating. When you say high-powered, is it beyond ministers, maybe some senators or maybe officials? What is high-powered?
Yeah,
the NSA, the service chiefs,
the Minister of State of Defense.
What? Please.
I want contract, so I want to protect pipelines too. If you have a link.
Where's Fuhad? Here in Lagos.
I don't know.
Well,
48 billion is a lot of money.
Well, the story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here very quickly CCB. CCB begins verification of governors, ministers, claims agencies to collaborate with CBN, NFIU, 𝗪𝗂𝘃 on assets.
Should that not have been completed before they took oath of office?
Well, barely it's now, according to the Nation, barely a week in office, the Code of Conduct Bureau has raised verification teams to vet the accounts and assets of ministers.
We are nominees. They knew they were going to be, whether they like it, except the one that was dropped.
Governors as well, public office holders, both federal, state, and local government levels. They are vetting everybody now.
I think the CCB is just a window shopping, if I can use that word, organization. More like they just come for the vast matters, of the media thing. Nothing has been done. Nothing. Tell me, give me a conviction the CCB has secured in 16 years.
Well, that's what we have from that particular report. The story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Unfortunately, we can't take any more stories, but then we'll take a short break now. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where you, our dear listener, get to be a part of the conversation. Fuhad, before we go, this our core member that is also a federal minister. The story
is the friend Anna Musawa.
No, she's not my friend. Though. My friend was the one that was dropped.
No, but she's...
Oh, your friend was the one that was dropped. Oh, so sorry.
What are you trying to do? No, this is just
no, but that's the truth. I can't. No, I won't deny her. We've been friends since way back. 𝗵𝗵𝘁𝘂𝗧𝗧.
That remembrance was not necessary. Thank you very much for that.
And I felt pained. I felt I was going to have a way to just like believe in this government.
Just rubbed.
No, just to believe in this government. But they just told me that I should not believe in them.
It's okay.
I don't have any stake in it.
Sorry about that. Let's move on now. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. Thank you for staying tuned, but don't touch the dial. We'll be right back.
Rock the groove. It's music extravaganza, where the beat gets hotter. Mainland 98.3.
Baby, let's go.
The sound of Lagos.
If you buy market